Hi, my name is Kathleen Williams and I'm the Head of Journalism, Media and Communications here at the University of Tasmania. Today I'm going to talk to you about issues management. This is a crucial part of learning how to engage with the media, with consumers, and also with other stakeholders. How do you best manage a controversy? What are some of the tactics that you can use to get your point across without seeming to drown out other responses? Should you respond straight away to a crisis or issue? We'll explore some of these issues and questions today, with the caveat that there's no hard and fast rule for managing an issue. Instead, the context of each individual crisis, issue, or event has to be taken into consideration in order for it to be dealt with properly. But firstly, what do we mean by issues or crises? In public relations studies, these two terms are often separated to reflect both the severity of what's happening, but also the best practice response. Today I'm going to refer to them interchangeably, as this is an introduction of how to deal with these moments and events. Issues or crises make great material for the media. From product recalls to reputational damage by association to another brand or group, consumers and other stakeholders are naturally interested in how issues are dealt with by a company. But issues can also provide great opportunities for you. If an organisation that you disagree with is experiencing an issue or crisis, it can be a great opportunity to leverage the situation to insert your opinion and stance into the public domain and potentially influence public policy. Thinking recently about the campaign for the major supermarkets to stock Australian dairy farmer products, this was a good opportunity for many within the dairy industry to ensure that their voice was heard and for certain brands to positively increase their public profile and change the nature of public debate. This involves paying attention not only to that which concerns you directly, but also to media coverage of events that relate to your stakeholders. It will help in the first instance to map out who those stakeholders are. This may involve mapping out your competitors or those that impact upon your business beyond the production and circulation of the goods and services that you provide. The major change that has occurred in issues and crisis management over the past 2 decades is the widespread adoption of the internet, which has resulted in both the rise of social media, which we'll cover in more detail in the coming clip, and a change in the news cycle itself. It used to be the case that if an issue or crisis emerged, you might be able to take some time responding to it as if you were waiting for the next newspaper deadline. But today, we have a 24-hour news cycle in which audiences and the media expect quick, professional responses that don't go away too quickly. This puts considerable pressure for people to react in a timely manner. Compare by contrast this graph, which shows the computer company Intel responding to an issue with their new processing chip in the mid-1990s. An academic uncovered that the chip was not as successful as Intel was claiming in its advertisements, and that it had, in fact, something that was known as the Pentium bug, which results in the chip not being able to process complex tasks as quickly as the advertisements claimed. The professor who discovered this tried to contact Intel to no avail, and so, naturally, he took his concerns online. This was in the mid-1990s, well before Facebook. As you can see, there were months between the discovery and Intel acknowledging the issue. This seems hard to imagine now. With social media campaigns and a more diverse mainstream press, it's difficult to imagine that a company would not be held accountable in a much shorter time frame. It is worth noting that in 1996, when Intel was charged with misleading customers by inaccurately advertising another product, they were very quickly made a public apology and made a swift change to their marketing materials. This is now the kind of response that we expect. Obviously, this issue would now play out much more quickly and involve very different stakeholders and types of media. However, the life cycle we can see in this crisis could very well play out today. While the issue is only at the potential stage, the pressure placed upon you is lower. However, this is a great time to plan how to manage the issue and to intervene early. Had Intel, for instance, recalled the chips at this point, this would have arguably changed the rest of the issue. As the issue is emerging, pressure will also be increasing, and it is this point that intervention is important. Ideally, in a best practice scenario, you have pre-planned how to respond to an issue so that by this stage, you have intervened before an issue becomes a crisis. We can see in this example that a failure to communicate and to acknowledge fault meant that an issue became a crisis and became much more difficult to deal with. Robert Heath is a well-known issues and crisis management scholar, and he argues that issues management can be understood as an application of a series of tools and approaches that are strategic by their very nature. Firstly, that issues management requires strategic business planning, in which the business remains aware of threats and opportunities from the opinions of key publics. Some people will undertake what is known as a SWOT analysis, in which you complete a table of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, in which you map how you, your stakeholders, and other factors are impacting or impacted by the issue at hand. This is a really useful exercise to help you identify aspects of an issue that might not be initially obvious. HEATH also identifies 3 other aspects to issues management. First, getting the house in order, as he calls it, which involves a business both identifying and implementing standards of corporate responsibility. Secondly, that you scout the terrain, keeping on top of issues that may impact upon you or your stakeholders, set priorities and analyse these issues. Lastly, HEATH outlines a strong defence and smart offence. This might be pretty straightforward to those of you who understand sport more than me, but it's important here to remember the organisation's voice and brand. Think about these questions. Are your actions in line with how you want to be perceived? There might be an opportunity for some quick point scoring, but will this impact upon your reputation negatively? You'll notice in Robert Heath's description there is quite a lot of pre-planning involved, rather than simply waiting to react to a problem. This means not simply waiting for something bad to happen, whether or not you will benefit from it, and instead having a clear plan on how you would react to a range of situations. In the immortal words of the band Chicago, it's hard for me to say I'm sorry. And one of the principal aspects of issues in crisis management is knowing when to say sorry and how to apologise. The first rule of when thinking through whether or not you need to apologise is, has something gone wrong? Which is pretty straightforward. Are people upset? Even if the aspects of the event are beyond your control, say through a supplier or manufacturer, sometimes consumers and other stakeholders will still positively react to your acknowledgement of the situation and its impact upon people. If you're concerned about legal liability, it is obviously important for you to seek legal advice. An important thing to avoid with apologies is not apologising for people being offended. Too often we see companies and organisations apologising for people taking offence, rather than apologising for their involvement in the situation itself. This comes across as disingenuous and can often lead to another apology, but with this time a far more hostile and unsympathetic public. While there's no one-size-fits-all answer on how to manage issues, it's important to stay true to the mission for your organisation, the image you want to project, and to show compassion when it's needed. Going back to the 4 aspects of issues management identified by Robert Heath, a tactical plan for you could be to work on enhancing the capacity of your business to think strategically. Enhance the ability to know and achieve corporate responsibility. Enhance your ability to monitor issues. Enhance your potential to engage in public policy dialogue. Of course, developments in how we communicate online also mean that we can now see how others are reacting to an issue. The general public are able to share their reactions to events with one another via social media, resulting in much more direct lines of communication. The design of social media platforms also allows publics to organise and rally behind a hashtag, reaching out to the mainstream press in the process. While monitoring an issue, it's important to take these platforms and conversations into consideration. In the next clip, we'll discuss how to engage with audiences on different social media platforms.